Hello, hello. It's Mark here. Second live of the day, first show of the day. It's a busy day, but and as usual, I send links out. Oh shit! See, that's how much of a rush I was in. Trying to get these three guys in, but they haven't quite got the hang of StreamYard yet, which happens unfortunately. So let's see who's here. Debbie Lacey, hi Debbie, how are you? Good to see you. Aussie Sue, hi Aussie Sue. Hope you're well. Ozzy G, hello again. Yeah, hello again. Mark Wallace, looking forward to this. Yeah, me too. Hopefully they'll be able to get in. Oh god, I haven't got another browser on this phone. Yes, yeah, typical. I'm trying to get these guys on because they're the three guys from Birmingham. Mike Shinton I've known for a few years, and they've been standing up for us all. They were outside the BBC on Saturday covering it with stickers, and they've been stalwarts in the hang on, sorry, I'm just going to message Mike again. I'm just trying to fix that backwards and forwards. There's a problem with lives. Hello, hi guys. Victoria Clink, hello, blue, beautiful souls. That's nice. Colleen, hello, more lessons. Right, I think he's on the way. So I'm going to introduce one of these three guys who's managed to get in, and this is Jazz. Hi, Jazz. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Mark? You okay?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. It's still very faint, but I can just about manage to hear you.
You disappeared. I said I was going to bring you back in. You must have taken yourself.
Oh, my apologies. Well, thank you for inviting me anyways, Mark. Much appreciated.
No, it's a pleasure. Give us a bit of background, Jazz. You've been, I know Mike, and I've spoken on stage with Mike in Birmingham last year, and he's been around for a couple of years, and I know you guys all work together, I suppose is the best way of putting it, and organize these protests against the tyranny. What's your story? What's your background? How did you get to this?
Well, I mean, my sort of journey started about 27 years ago. I've always been sort of suspicious how this whole planet has been run by a certain few. And, David Icke sort of set me on my journey 27 years ago. And obviously, I've been following the New World Order, the cabal, ever since. Obviously, we're all labelled as conspiracy theories, as you well know. Obviously 9/11 came along, and I thought, this is kind of the beginning of curtailing our freedoms. I think we all kind of adjusted to, certain aspects of our freedoms being taken away, i.e. airports, where you had to take your shoes off your belt and you couldn't take liquids on, so we all kind of compromised. But I thought, what's going to be the next stage of the agenda, and I never thought that they was going to use, a virus as such, to control the masses, and I've never protested in my life, to be quite honest, Mark. Never, and I basically kind of seen it pretty much early on for what it was. And, I thought, I need to get out there and, be a voice and fight this tyranny. And obviously, we're from Birmingham, me, Mark and Lucan. And I went to my first protest back in September 2020 in Birmingham. And as I say, the rest is history. There was only a small number of us, and we've gradually seen, the movement in Birmingham grow very, very strongly in terms of numbers. We've got a great team in Birmingham. We all sort of do our bit, and as I say, I'm a small cog in the bigger machine. There's no egos. Everybody knows what we're doing, and we're all on the same sort of page in terms of, what's happening on a global scale. And we've had some great rallies in Birmingham. We've had David Icke come and speak a couple of times, and we've had some prominent other speakers, local speakers. So and this is where we are. And I never thought I'd kind of be one of the sort of the forefront faces of the Birmingham movement, but this is where my journey's led me. So and we're here today again, fighting this next stage of the agenda, which we all know, central banking digital currency, and trying to bring in these smart cities. So, we've been back on the streets now for the last couple of weeks, trying to make people aware, all the people, unfortunately, who got coerced and blackmailed and hoodwinked into taking, the experimental, what.
Thing. Yeah.
And we're now seeing, unfortunately, the fallouts from this genocidal agenda that they put out, across the globe, and we're the ones who are picking up the pieces. So we need all these people on our side, and we need to empower them. We need to educate them, because they don't know any difference. They don't know any different. It's not their fault. They went along with the government, and they went along with the government scientists, and here we are today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been waking up for 30 odd years as well, and it all accelerated, as you said, with 9/11, and then David Icke calls it tiptoe totalitarianism, but the tiptoe's gone from a tiptoe to a sprint, and
Yeah.
I kind of see that in a positive way, actually, because from all the research I did, I knew that they wanted to wipe us out in 2017. So the fact that it got to this place meant that the bad guys weren't completely in control, because most of us would already have been offed. But I also think that during this whole process, it's so important that people do stand up. And in 2020, it was really quite tough, wasn't it? Because I remember going on a rally in September 2020 in Dublin, and the streets were lined with people in masks, just looking at us like we were the biggest morons on earth, and it
Yeah.
was horrible. At the same time, it was amazing, the spirit of the people that were there trying to tell them, what are you doing? But I think, it is tough seeing people dropping, but it is having an effect, and it means that more people are starting to, well, they know something's wrong, put it that way. And have you noticed that in all the demonstrations that you've done or protests that you've done, in terms of the
Yeah, I mean, we had a small sort of rally recently, a couple of weeks back in Birmingham. Fiona Hyde and Damien organised it, and they've gone under the hashtag Truth Be Told. And we had a number of vaccine injured who attended and gave their testimonies, and it was quite a painful experience to see, these people who, like I said, trusted the government, and the science that was given to them. And it's really difficult, but we did walk around the city centre, and we were giving out leaflets, and we were getting some very good responses. People were standing and listening and talking to us, and every other person that I spoke to knew of somebody, who had an adverse event, and some unfortunately had died as a consequence. And these are the very same people who wish death on us, Mark.
I know.
These are the people who ostracized us. We became social pariahs. And we've got to show compassion. We will never forget, but we have to kind of show some sort of compassion, because ultimately, this is good against evil.
Yeah.
And we just need these people on our sides. Again, as I said, we need to empower them with knowledge, show them compassion, and show them, that there's a bigger evil agenda out there. They want to enslave us, as you well know, through digital smart cities, and take us into that transhumanism world.
Mhm.
And we need people to stand up and say, if we go into that world, then we're going to end up complete slaves, and every assets of freedom that we ever had is going to be taken away forever, and so this is where we are. But yeah, we've had some good responses, and hopefully we're going to do a few more rallies in Birmingham, and hopefully the numbers will grow again, because we all kind of had a bit of a break, once the restrictions were relaxed and everybody kind of went back to normal. So yeah, hopefully we'll be doing a number of rallies again in Birmingham. I have been speaking to Chris Sky over in Canada.
Yeah.
He's looking to come over in April to the UK. So if I can, hopefully we'll get him into Birmingham, and hopefully we'll get him on the stage to tell us what's happening out in Canada.
I met him in Dublin in the rally in September 2020. He was
okay.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Mike's managed to make it into the studio. Let's see if I can get him in. Hi, Mike. You're muted. He's in such a rush. He's called himself Mile now instead of Mike. Oh, he's lost him again.
Mike still got one of them old 1980s Nokia phones, I think.
I think he has. He was texting me going, "My browser's rejected it." And I'm like,
I reckon, Mark. I reckon he's still on the dial-up thing.
Yeah.
I think he needs to get on the 5G.
I won't tell him you said that. Oh, it's too late. Well, I mean, I'm. It's interesting because I've never met you before, but I've heard about you through Mike, and I know that you've done. You know, I just want to highlight people that I see as heroes, because everybody that stood up is a hero to me, and everybody that said no is a hero to me, because it's a collective effort, right? It's not about whether you've got a YouTube channel. It's about the fact that you said no and went through that isolation and went through the stigma, you know, and being shouted at in shops and spat at in the street and slagged off online and all of that kind of stuff, because it was the biggest psychological operation in history. Which is why I did a video on Twitter a couple of weeks ago saying exactly what you just said, and I had like 400,000 views, and I was expecting loads of hate, and it wasn't. It was loads of people saying, "Yeah, I'm really regretting doing it. I wish I'd not done it," and I'm like, well, this is really good, and I agree with you. It's a time of unity, because there are brothers and sisters, right? And they, you know, they fell for something. And there's loads of people I know who are like, well, I was going to lose my job. I'm a single parent, and what am I going to do? And you know, I totally understand that. And it was a big shock. It was a big shock to them.
Yeah, I mean, look, fear. You know, as I'll coin the phrase from David Icke, fear is a currency of control.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what they did. You know, through fear mongering propaganda. You know, blackmail, coercion. You know, if you don't take, you know, this, you know, the jab. You can't travel, you can't access public services, you'll end up losing your job. You know, this is, you know, the highest form of, well, it's discrimination in anybody's eyes, you know. I mean, if you said to a homosexual, for instance, that you're not coming into this establishment because you're homosexual, you'll have the whole community, you know, the LGBTQ community coming right at you. So it was discrimination, you know. And you know, and it was so sad, you know, that people came against us, you know. Like I said, you know, we became social pariahs. Yeah, the psychological operation that they played on humanity, you know, they've done a massive number on us. But again, you know, like I said, people didn't know any better. They just went with what was told.
Yeah, let's see. You in now, Mike?
Mile.
How is that Nokia 310? I don't think you can hear us.
Oh, here he is. Hi, Mike. Oh, no. I think he's on Tethco's Wi-Fi, I think.
He's on something.
I'm not too sure where Lucan is, because did you not invite Lucan to come on?
I did, yeah. I've sent it all to Mike and said share it out and get everybody on. But
well, I mean, if Lucan doesn't come on, I mean, Lucan's fantastic. He's from Wolverhampton, and you know, he's got a great team out over in Wolverhampton, and he does a lot of proactive work with his team. And obviously, you know, he's joined obviously the Birmingham movement too, and you know, he's a great soldier. He's out there proactively, you know, doing what he needs to do. And yeah, you know, he's I've got a lot of time and respect for Lucan. And it would have been quite interesting if he does come on tonight, you know, to hear what you know, what he's got to say, because he's a gas engineer and he gets to speak to a lot of people on a one-to-one basis. And you know, he's really, you know, planted a lot of seeds, you know, in the job that he actually does.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, and you're in my. I'm a Midlander. I live in the west of Ireland.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Northampton.
Right.
But my mum lives in Birmingham, so
yeah,
it's a great place with a lot of good people in it. But like everywhere else, it's had the same kind of attack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the encouraging thing, you know, for me, Mark, was when I first kind of went to my first rally back, you know, in September 2020. You know, we had very, very small numbers, and you know, just to see the gradual growth of people waking up and coming to the rallies, you know, the hundreds turned into the thousands, and you know, I felt really kind of proud to see, you know, there's people waking up in Birmingham, you know, and we've just got to continue doing what we're doing, you know. We've got to. And I've been saying this for the last couple of years, what we need to do, we need to start from grassroots. We need to start, you know, in our communities. We need to empower our neighbours, our streets, our communities, you know, and tell them, you know, that we have the power. You know, we're governed by consent. You know, just because something's legal doesn't make it lawful. You
That's
know,
right.
i.e., for instance, you know, these fines that they threatened us with. You know, if you open up your business, you'll get a £10,000 fine. If you go out within a certain zone during lockdown, you're going to get fined £200. You know, we know they were unenforceable. And the
Totally.
reason I say that, because I got arrested twice during lockdown, and both of my charges were dropped. I
Yeah.
stood against, you know, this evil, you know, legal system that they've got in place, and you know, you stand up against these people, and you know, they know if you know your rights, they'll back down, and they did in my case.
Yeah, well, I've had a number of experiences like that myself. I've not been arrested through any of this, but I stood up against the TV license was the first thing I stood up against about 2012, 2013.
Yeah,
And that was a big step because it felt like stepping out of the matrix, you know, learning a bit of common law, and then the bailiffs just did what I told them to do, and I was like, "Whoa, this is interesting."
yeah,
and then a couple of other incidences with taxes and fines and court hearings and
yeah,
lawyers. I mean, it's just been like, for me, it's just been like a big educational process that I've been through in order to be ready for this time, because I do think this is a spiritual war. Would you agree with that?
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, and that's where I think I've come in. My bit has been to just let those people that are already kind of awake, who are isolated, know that they weren't alone. But then, you know, I did an interview with an amazing woman yesterday in Ireland here, who went up to the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, you know, like
Right,
Prime Minister here,
yeah,
and I actually, well, I think I'd like to show you this video. It's very short, this bit, because I think this is what's going on over here, because it's been there are obviously, I think it's about the same percentage worldwide of people that are awake enough to get on the streets, and there have been people getting on the streets here as well as all over the world. Maybe less so in America, actually, which is
are you in Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland?
I'm in Ireland. There is no Southern Ireland.
Oh, okay,
There's only the bit that they cut off and call
yeah,
Northern Ireland, but it's all Ireland.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm in the northwest of the southern part. Yeah.
right.
But I'll just show you this because I think this will inspire everybody watching not seen it. And I put this up on Rumble last night.
They're lying and telling us that.
He's for telling the Irish person. I'm sorry, we're not allowed to talk the truth, no?
Thank you very much.
We're not allowed to talk the truth in this country. He's a disgrace. You're not a teacher in this country. You're an absolute disgrace, my man. 11,000 Irish homeless we have in this country. 11,000 Irish homeless. Are you actually standing and protecting this man? Are you protecting him? There's 11,000 people in this country homeless, and he's bringing in 80,000 foreigners unvetted. Come on, what? I'm angry. I'm Irish.
I know.
Are you not angry? Are you not ashamed of that man? Are you not ashamed of him? 11,000 Irish homeless we have. Are you not ashamed? Are you not ashamed?
It's a good question, and I interviewed her for an hour last night.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want to show you that is that, you know, people are standing up, and it does take a lot of courage to do that, especially when you're faced with the police or the guards here, because people still have this fear of them, even though they have absolutely no jurisdiction whatsoever, because they're
Absolutely not.
they're officers of a corporation.
100%.
You know,
I've got a good friend of mine, another freedom fighter in Birmingham by the name of Suck, and he said to me 2.5 years ago, and it always resonates with me, and I'll pass this phrase on. He said to me, if you don't know your rights, you have no rights.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. You know, we need to empower ourselves. We need to know their legal, system, and we need to use that against them. You know, we've got common law. You know, we're sovereign beings. You know, we have a constitution here, and we need to empower ourselves through knowledge and stand up to, as you says, nothing but, agents, for the state. And that's all they are. And all that. I mean, the police are literally the thin blue line between freedom and tyranny. And it's so sad to see that we've had to stand in front of them and try to educate them and say, look, you're here as public servants, you're here to uphold the peace, you're here to protect us, the citizens. But obviously, as you well know, it's completely the opposite.
Do you think they know that? Because I don't think they're all bad people.
No, I mean, look, I've spoken to quite a number of police officers, during this 3 years, of tyranny. And funny enough, I was speaking to an officer just on Saturday. We went up to the BBC studios in Birmingham, and I engaged with one of the local, one of the PCs, and he says, looking back now, he says, what the government did, was arbitrary. It was disproportionate, and he says, he did say, it's not right. I said, but you're standing there still, protecting the very people who are trying to take away our freedoms, But he was listening, he was responsive. We gave him leaflets and also one of his colleagues, and they said, they're going to go away and look at it, and they are seeing what's happening. I said to him, ultimately, look, when you take off that uniform, you're just a human being, just like me, you're just like anybody else. It's going to affect you, it's going to affect your families. So, we need you guys on our side. You need to do your jobs, swore an oath, and you need to protect us. You're here to serve us, not the corporations. And that's the kind of the message I'm trying to get out there to the officers. But it is hard work, but they are listening. And I think, post, the whole sort of the COVID situation, I think, a lot of them are kind of waking up and seeing the bigger picture.
Well, I hope so. I do hope so. But there were times during some of the London demonstrations, I remember seeing footage of the police being really heavy-handed and violent. Do you think those guys were shipped in for that, or were they actually part of the police force? Because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, they had the TSG, didn't they? The Territorial Support Unit of Metropolitan Police, and some of the police officers, they just didn't. It seemed like to me they were kind of trained up for this particular purpose. That was the kind of vibe I was getting, and they were just acting literally like thugs. Like I said, I got taken down quite heavily by the TSG during lockdown. I got smashed, and I ended up spending 17 hours in Charing Cross Police Station, and all we were doing was exercising our rights, to peacefully protest. And these rules and these regulations that they put in place, as you says, they were unenforceable, and and we completely went against them. But the way we were treated, peaceful people, young men, young women, elderly people, there were mothers there with their kids in prams. They did not give any regards to who we were, what we were doing. We weren't causing any trouble. We was out there, like it says, exercising our rights to stand up for our freedoms, and we were treated like thugs, literally.
Well, the brainwashing is so deep. I mean, even here in Ireland, in the last week, every public servant, civil servant, in any kind of public sort of institution, like a school or a resource centre or a whatever, they've all been sent this guide on how to deal with right-wing extremists, because they're shipping in, these. I don't like using the word immigrants, because then this is fake immigration. This is completely not a normal situation.
No, it's not.
80,000 unchecked young men, not families, young men from various countries that are not in a war zone, so they're not refugees.
No.
And how have they come in? They've just been shipped in, whilst there are 12,000, as you heard Noreen say, 12,000 homeless families here, and families living in single tiny rooms. I mean, there's a total shortage of housing here, yet you're shipping in 100,000 people. And
something doesn't sort of sit right with that, Mark, at all.
Yeah, they know people are going to respond to it, so that's why they put out all this stuff. But the problem is the public servants reading it still believe the government. It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. And they're getting everything in terms of benefits. They're all in hotels, being looked after, and as you just rightly says, we've got our own people, who've paid their taxes and their national insurance and literally out on the street, and again, I think it's all part of the bigger agenda. I think it's all part of the plan. Again, we might go into the realms of conspiracy, but I believe these particular men of fighting age have kind of been shipped in, because, at some point in time, Mark, there's going to be, civil unrest. Well, you've seen that, just last week in Liverpool, and people have had enough. I won't condone any sort of violence. We've got to have civil disobedience, and we can do it in a peaceful way. We can do, and we need to take the power back. We are the people. We are the power. As you says, we are governed by consent. We vote these so-called politicians and these councillors into positions of power. So we need to recognize that we are the ones who ultimately hold the power, and they are accountable to us. So we all need to come together, like it says, collectively, individually, in our communities, and we need to hold these individuals to account. Now you look at what they're trying to do with, these, with the smart cities, the councils just going along without, doing what they're doing without even having any sort of consultation with any of their constituencies. The arrogance and the blind, they're so cocky about it. They're just doing it without even asking, the local constituents. And this is where we need to put our foot down. And like I said, we need to empower our community, and we all need to come together and bring this tyrannical system down. And we can only do that by coming together. And that's going to be through, like it says, empowering people with knowledge and telling people, we have the power ultimately. They're all career politicians. They're all getting paid well. They don't give a flying monkeys about us. That they don't. They're working for the corporations. They're working for the cabal, and we need to bring the system down. If we don't, then we're heading into a very, very dark dystopian world where freedoms will be lost forever. And I'll stand here today. I will stand here as a free sovereign man, and I will stand on my 2 feet to the death. I will not compromise my values, my integrity, my self-respect, and ultimately my freedoms to these evil psychopaths who are running this planet. It's nothing but pure evil.
Yeah,
Mark.
When you said working for the cabal, I was going to take it a step further, because I believe that when they are doing that, they're actually working for Satan. And
Satan,
yeah. And the thing is, Satan's convinced so many people that he's not real. It's ridiculous, but he is real. And and it's good, even if you don't call it that, you call it good versus evil. But the thing is, I think it's a battle for our souls, right?
Absolutely,
100%. And these people who are if anybody's watching this that is a policeman or a nurse or something like that, that knows something's wrong, but is still continuing to do it, this is between you and God now, really.
Yeah. I mean, look, I really, truly believe, I coin a phrase from the Bible, scripture, many are called, but few are chosen. And I truly believe, we have been actually chosen for this time in history, to stand up against evil, the devil.
Yep.
I mean, you can just see in plain view now, that Satan and the demonic satanic rituals that they're playing on our TV screens, i.e. the Grammy Awards last week.
Well, the Olympics, every football match is a satanic ritual.
It's all satanic, and it's in our face, and it's out there in plain view. It's all symbolism. It's all part of their ritual code anyway, to put it out there. And it's for us to sort of see through that, and educate people. But because of humanity, we've been indoctrinated to live in such a system where we're used to consuming goods, and living in a certain way. We have to break away from that. We need to get back to our consciousness, and get back to basics, and know what's right and wrong. We need to have some sort of moral compass. We need to have, bring back values, old-fashioned values, and look, I'm all about equality and stuff, but some of the stuff that they're putting out there is nothing but demonic, and certainly a lot of things that I certainly don't agree with. I'm very old-fashioned in my ways, in my terms of my values, and that.
Oh, your sound's gone. Hello, the microphone's not working. I think you're frozen. Well, Jazz is talking a lot of sense, and it's great to connect with people like Jazz that have been out there. Oh, you're back.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
back.
Sorry, I had a phone call there. Sorry,
that's
apologies, Mark.
It's okay. It's okay. lost my train of thought there. We are, you know, one of the biggest problems is that a lot of the people that we're trying to explain all this stuff to have a lot of catching up to do, and a lot of cognitive dissonance to get over, and a lot of information to take in. It's a huge amount of information.
Yeah.
Have you yeah, I know that you feel. I mean, I'm an apocalyptimist, right? So I'm very optimistic, even though we're in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just am. I always have been. And
Yeah.
but it has involved courage, and I commend everybody that's stood up in whatever way, because together we are incredibly powerful. But
Yeah.
I think they're very, very clever at the way that they it's like stop, start, lockdown, and then it's back to normal, then something else. Now it's like, then it's Ukraine, and then now it's aliens, now it's fucking UFOs in the last week.
Well, Mark, it's all distraction.
Yeah, I know.
And they're very good at what they do. The psychological operation that they played on humanity. They've done a massive number on us. And Mark, time is very, very short. This is all leading up to Agenda 2030.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe we've only got a 7-year window. And if anybody kind of, follows the book of Revelation and the scriptures of the Bible, I truly believe, this is my thought process on it. I truly believe we are now in the 7 years of tribulation, where we are going to have 3.5 years of absolute tyranny and evil, which we're actually seeing today. And then the latter 3 years leading up to 2030, I truly believe, this is where humanity is going to rise up against this evil. And, we will take back the planet, and come back to that level of consciousness, and humanity will win in the end, as I say. But, it's time is short, Mark, and we really, really need to wake up, and people need to step out of fear. People are very, very fearful of what people are going to say. Look, I put my neck on the line, Mark. I'm a businessman. I'm a family man. I've got 3 daughters. Thank God, they're not they're not vaccinated. Neither is my ex-wife, and that's great. But
Same here. I've got 5.
yeah, well, there you go. And we're quite fortunate in that regard. But people just need to step out of fear, and don't worry about the consequences of your reputation, because you know what, you're not going to have anything left if we stand back and allow this tyranny to continue. We have seen the devastation. We have seen this evil play its course in the last 2.5 years, when they started using this whole, the jab agenda. We've seen families. I've heard firsthand how it's divided families and friends. And this is what the devil's all about. He's out there to separate, divide, and destroy. And he's doing a good job. And I've spoken to people where one person has chosen to take it and the other one hasn't, and it's completely wrecked and ruined that particular family. And it's heartbreaking, it's painful to see, and we're seeing it on a regular basis. And this is what Satan's about. He's out there to kill, harm, and destroy. But the truth will prevail, and we will win in the end. But we all need to come together collectively. People need to wake up, Mark. The time is short. I cannot say that enough. Time is short. 7 years, I believe, 7 years leading up to 2030, the Agenda 2030. So, we just got to get the word out there, bro, and just keep doing what we're doing, and being a voice. Don't think just because you're one individual that your voice doesn't count. It does. It does. You're planting seeds, and that one voice can become 10, 20, 100 voices, So again, we've all got to empower ourselves individually and come together collectively.
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with that 100%. I've got more of a rosy outlook. I don't think it's going to go all the way to 2030 and Agenda 2030. I don't think that's going to play out. I don't think the bad guys are actually in control.
No.
But that is a difficult thing to get across to people, because they're like, well, why are people dying? Why is this happening? Well, because this is biblical. This is about your soul. This place is like Earth school, and it's how you behave in it that depends on where you go next. Because most people think that we're just carbon-based machines that they're born and then die. No, we're eternal souls that have come here many, many times, and we're learning our lessons all the time. But it does involve standing up, uniting, and showing compassion, and evolving as a race, because we've been in the dark for so long. The only way forward is into the light. and
Yeah.
in a way, your life doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say, sort of kind of going off topic, but it all sort of fits in terms of what we've been saying. For instance, we had the farmers' protest, the Sikhs out in India, and that was a fine example of people power. We knew that Bill Gates was trying to do a massive land grab out in India with the farmers. And when, the Sikhs, not only the Sikhs, the Hindu farmers, the Muslim farmers, humanity, Mark, came together. Yeah. And when humanity came together during the farmers' protests, what happened? They backed off because they are scared that we all come together united. That's why they always use that weapon of divide and conquer, whether it be religion, whether it be like, feminism and the toxic masculinity, all these buzzwords they're using, whatever. They've always used that tool of divide and conquer. They do not want to see humanity come together. But that, the Sikh farmers' protest was an absolute fantastic example of humanity coming together. Forget about your race, your religion, the color of your skin. We all came together. They all came together in India for one common purpose: to fight this evil, which was Bill Gates, Monsanto, and all the corporations who were trying to do a massive land grab. And look what happened as a consequence. They pushed it back. We pushed it back. And I thank God. And I've got nothing but respect for every man, woman who are out there fighting. People died, for the cause because they had no choice.
Yeah.
I was hearing stories, my Sikh brothers were leaving their villages, kissing their families goodbye to say, you know what, you might not see me again, but it's okay. I'm fighting for the future.
Yeah.
For my future, for the future of my children, the future of, for my land. And many people lost their lives as a consequence, and listen, there's a lot of people out there, me included. I'm willing to die, for my freedoms, to make sure that I keep my freedoms, so my children can have a future where they're free to do what they want to do, to walk this land, without being told what to do. It's our God-given inalienable rights. No government has a right to tell me what to do, and that's where we are. So yeah, nothing but respect to all the Sikh farmers and all the other farmers that came together, and again, it showed you the same situation in Holland. When the farmers in Holland came together,
Dutch farmers were great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that just shows you, Mark. People power. We all come together collectively, and they know they are scared. And coin a phrase again from David Icke. We are many, they are few.
Yeah, well, I think their plan is like attrition. It's like it wears you down, wears you down, wears you down, because they're long-term planners. And if people are in a constant state of ignorance and then reacting to everything all the time instead of understanding the bigger picture, because that's what we need to get to, is people understanding the bigger picture. Oh, Lucan's managed to join us.
Hey.
That's how they
yes, am I in? Can you hear
Hello,
me?
Lucan. You're in. You're live on YouTube. How are you? I'm
yes,
Mark.
finally got in. Sorry, I had a bit of a technical issue with this laptop.
Not as bad as
How are you, Luke?
Mate, Jazz, I'm all right. You've been holding the fort very well.
I'm trying, mate. I'm trying. Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to meet you. Can you hear us? No. Fraught with technical issues this evening.
Yeah, that's it. Because I'm watching on YouTube, there's a slight delay. That's why.
Yeah.
So now I'm just in the studio. I'm not watching at the same time, which causes.
I do that all the time. I always forget to turn
bit
it
of a
off.
nightmare.
So, what's your story, Lucan?
Yeah. So obviously, when all this nonsense came out, we kind of sussed what was going on. Really, we knew this was, orchestrated by the NGOs, the non-governmental organisations such as UN, the World Health Organization, CDC, FDA, and we kind of understood what the agenda was really. And for me, I think at the time it was just about connecting with people. And it's funny because, prior to all this, I think we was all in our own little circles, talking about like flat Earth and 9/11. And I think COVID, for me, was a thing that kind of like brought us all together. It united a lot of people, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Even though it caused a lot of division, I think it also created a lot of unity. And I think a lot of people really connected. from all different backgrounds, and that's what I love about it. Really, just the connection of different people that we've just encountered over the last 2 or 3 years. So what we did was we set up. First of all, we was all in a massive WhatsApp group. We was all going down to London. I was organising coaches to take people, say, from Wolverhampton to Birmingham. When we first went to Trafalgar Square, there's probably 30,000 people, then probably 70. The numbers were growing up to, I'd probably say about 2 million at the peak, of this great awakening. It was probably 2 million people. And I remember I took a work colleague, and I was like, oh, you got to come down. You got to come down with us. He came down, and we got off down by Hyde Park, and he'd never seen so many people. And I watched him. He stood there just in awe, and he was just like perplexed at how many people were actually standing up to the government. And it was an eventful time, to be honest. And it was very interesting, to be honest. I used to have I have a bit of a gimmick where I put a TV on my head, and I have a saying, "Get your head out the TV," because I think that's what we've all done.
Yeah.
And the reason why I kind of did that was because my day job is I'm a gas engineer by trade. Now, during the pandemic, what I saw was just people just sat at home, watching Chris Whitty, Van Tam, watching all these. They're not even scientists. They're all part of Sage. Let's face it. Talking all these stats. Using all these buzzwords, because it's all a psychological program. As Jazz has said, it's all about conditioning and programming and social engineering. And I just sat. When you go into people's property, you see them in their own environment, and all I saw was just people sat in front of the TV, watching the deaths, watching the cases go. All these buzzwords, social distancing, don't kill granny. And they were just taking it all in, and it was all being soaked into that psyche. And then the aftermath of that really was you just having people who just regurgitating what they've seen on the TV. That's all it was. But can I tell you an interesting story, which I kind of tell a lot of randoms? Yeah. When I spoke at the Birmingham protest, because Jazz allowed me to do my little speech and stuff, and I told this story, and I think for me, it encompasses everything that we've kind of like been subject to over the last 3 years. I went into a guy's house to service his boiler, and so went in to do a gas check, and I looked around, and this guy's house was full of books. That's all he had, just books. And he was asked. Everybody asked me, how you getting on? You busy? You got loads of work? Blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, because all this COVID nonsense. I said, everybody's in. And he was like, what you on about, mate? I was like, all this COVID-19 coronavirus. And he was like, what you on about? I was like, you haven't heard of the coronavirus? He'd never heard of it. We're now talking July 2020, so the so-called peak of COVID. This guy's never heard of the coronavirus. And I stopped, and I was like, wow, do you know when all the hair raised on the back of your neck? And you're like, what the hell? This guy, and this is what I loved about this guy didn't have a TV, didn't have a magazine, no newspapers, no mobile phone. He had an old landline, and all he did was he collected books for charities, and he didn't have a clue about anything that was going on. So imagine he's walking around, and everybody else is all muzzled up and socially distancing, acting awkward, and he's just like nothing's happened. He didn't know what it was.
That's great. That's like the Japanese soldier on the island still thinking he's at war like 30 years later because nobody didn't get the memo.
Honestly, it was the same thing. So
it shows you, doesn't it?
So go on.
Well, it shows you that it's all media is the virus.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah. And I think this is why we targeted the BBC, because they're just for the last 3 years, it's just been nothing but propaganda, crisis actors.
The last 80 years.
Yeah, well,
100 years.
Since its inception, really. But I think maybe we should all stop paying a TV license and stop funding it all, because we're all funding it.
I did that 10 years ago, and because when I lived in the UK, and people You know, there's a paedophile statue put there in 1936 on the headquarters of the BBC.
I know.
And they've never taken it down. And then
No.
Jimmy Savile, and then Esther Ranson, and then you look at and all the weird deaths that have gone on, Jill Dando and the Mark Spritz and all of this. It's like, but there's such a monolithic, huge organization. People just sit there and believe because they've been brainwashed into thinking Auntie's looking after them, but Auntie is not looking after you. Auntie wants you dead.
Yeah.
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 And they're all guilty, all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And that's what cracks me up. You know.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Matt Hancock going on "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here," and people are liking him.
But I think that's because they don't understand. He's obviously, when he was the health secretary, you know, they ordered a massive batch of midazolam, you know, all these sedative drugs that they used to sedate all the elderly in care homes, you know, and they don't know the full story, really. They don't know. A lot of people don't know he gave his mates a contract for PPE, which wasn't fit for purpose. They don't know that. You know, they're only going off, again, what they see on the television.
But how are you? Right, I've spoken to Jazz about this. Are you feeling more optimistic now than you were a couple of years ago? That people are starting to get it?
Yeah. I mean, there was a post on Twitter with Remise. Remise was on the underground, and he had an Agenda 2030 placard. He had one of those yellow boards, which we call yellow board protests or rebels on roundabouts, and he was on the underground, and they were doing a bit of outreach. And I did tweet, and I said, when we first started doing outreach, so, you know, because there's a lot of people, when this first started, we had these massive yellow boards. It came from Rebels on Roundabout, where each board told a story. So you'd have, you know, can you trust the media? You know, and we'd have another board. We said, honk if you're concerned. You know, why vaccinate teens when teens dying of COVID is rare? You know, people. You know, teens are dying of heart attacks and strokes. And a lot of the things that we were also promoting at the time was the yellow card scheme, which is obviously under the MHRA. And when we first started, we'd be on the main road, you know, and people would be driving past. Oh, you wankers, get a job, you anti-vaxxers. Do you know what I mean? But every now and then you'd have a little glimmer of hope, and you'd have somebody driving past, and he'd stop and he'd say, "Mate, I work for the NHS. I'm on your side." And little things like that would spur us on to say, "Do you know what? I think we're on the right track. I think we are doing the right thing." Do you know what I mean? So sometimes these little things.
Can I just interject there? I mean, when you're talking about people waking up, I put a post up on my TikTok account a few weeks back, following the recent small rally we had in Birmingham for the vaccine injured. And I got circa 49,000 views on that particular one. They did take it down eventually. I'm surprised it even lasted nearly 10 days. And the comments, I think I sent it over to you, Luke, and I'm not too sure if I sent it on WhatsApp. But and the comments, I had over 600 comments of people, normal people. And you want to hear the horror stories from the fallout of people who went along with the agenda. Yeah. And I tell you what, it brought a tear to my eye. You know, all ages, you know, people who have had adverse events, people who have lost their lives, you know, all demographics, all ages, blood clots, you know, strokes, brain damage, heart attacks. Yeah. It was across the board. And I tell you what, you know, and that gave me encouragement to think that, you know what, people now realize that, you know, they were hoodwinked and they were lied to. And you know what? There's a lot of angry people out there. And when these people finally wake up and they realize that their governments lied to them, you know what? It could get pretty messy. And these people are going to want their pound of flesh. And all these people that are in power, all these so-called government doctors who, you know, gave us all this fear-mongering propaganda with all their flowcharts and the man Hancocks and all the others involved, they will be held accountable and they will get charged for crimes against humanity. This is genocide at the highest order. But that's encouraged me to think that, you know, and most of these people, the thing about it is 100% of them comments says they regret taking it. And also they says they won't be going back for any more. Now, if it's that safe and efficient, Why ain't you going back for your booster? Why? Because now they know in hindsight it was the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
sorry, go on.
can I just interject after that one? Sorry, Mark. When you go into people's properties and you have people in their own personal capacity, like I do. So in my day job, like I say, I'm a gas engineer, go into people's properties. When you speak to some of these people, I'm talking vaccine injured, I'm talking those, every kind of demographic. I spoke to a lot of NHS staff, and you hear some horrific stories. And can I just share a few just quickly, because I know some of you may have heard this before, because there's probably a few people to comment who are probably from our Birmingham group or from our Wolverhampton group. But can I just tell you just a few stories, just maybe just two or three. I'll give you an example. So I went into a nurse's house who works in our local hospital in cardiology, and she said, before they rolled out the jabs, we had a great job supporting people who were like 45 to 70 with heart attacks and strokes. She said, as soon as they rolled out the vaccine, the jabs, she said, we had a massive influx of kids, 16, 18, 20, 25 coming in with heart attacks and strokes, obviously myocarditis, pericarditis, and all these kind of things. And obviously it's inflammation of the heart. And she said, that's why none of the staff are having the jab, and at the time, I mean, we are talking about 6-7 months ago. But going back as well, we also, the Birmingham group did it as well. The Wolverhampton group did it. We organised a protest outside our local hospital for the staff who didn't want to have the jab. And we did a first initial protest, and there's probably 6 of us. We had a small table, a couple of leaflets, and we had a huge sign, and we had a lot of ambulance staff tapping the horn. So we went back, but this time we went back with about 300 people. And, we parked up all on the grass. We had hundreds of placards. We had people doing the yellow boards. We had people speaking to staff. When we had 3 nurses who worked on the COVID ward, worked on the ICU, telling the general public what it was really like. When it all finished, and after everybody had spoke, we also then signed up a lot of NHS staff to our mailing list, where we gave them legal representation, because we liaised with. So I made contact with there's an organisation called the NHS 100K, where there was they said there was more than 300,000 staff who didn't want to have the jab. So we liaised with NHS 100K. We liaised with a lovely lady called Lisa from the Legal Cafe and the Workers' Rights of England, UK. And we tried to give them as much legal representation as we could. And then I think it was about 2 months after that, really, the mandate had stopped for the NHS staff. But imagine we had in a WhatsApp group, we had about 500 NHS staff between like Wolverhampton, Birmingham, Walsall, Dudley, and Leicester. And when you're hearing their stories every day, if I'm honest, it was quite overwhelming. Really, it was.
Luke, I was just going to say, I mean, we had that rally in Birmingham, didn't we? When we had all the NHS staff come, and we had a great turnout. Obviously, I think you spoke on that particular rally. We also had the Together declaration. They came up and they spoke. We had some great speakers. You spoke there, and you got some great information out there, and it was so encouraging to see these nurses and doctors who are willing to put their careers on the line because they believed in body autonomy and freedom of choice, and again, we're just going back, Mark, to talking about people power. Now, they says there's about 170 to 180 thousand NHS staff who refuse to take the vaccine. Now the government realized that if that amount of people were going to refuse, the NHS could have collapsed because they wouldn't have had the resources. So they knew they had to step back. They had no choice to do a U-turn on the mandates. Again, people power, people standing up, and thank God for all these brave doctors and nurses who came forward and stood in their sovereign power to say, I believe in body autonomy and freedom of choice. And they did a U-turn, didn't they, Mark? And had they implemented that mandate through the NHS, I think, personally myself, they would have run it across the board, across all sectors of society. And we would be living in a checkpoint society today, checkpoint Charlie society, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what your take is on that, Mark.
But it's very encouraging to hear that. Those numbers are far bigger than I thought at the time, you know, and at the time in 2020, I was like, these guys, what are they doing? You know, these guys are the ones implementing it. But then I started hearing stories like that nurse in Germany who'd administered like 6,000 saline solutions. And like,
Brilliant.
This is the way the human race is going to win this, because you need people in there that just go, right. And I'm sure there's a lot of heroes in places like the NHS, but the NHS in and of itself is, I think, in major trouble because it's based upon the Rockefeller model of medicine, which is completely what I think one of the things that lots of people have learned over the last 3 years is that allopathic pharmaceutical based medicine is a load of BS, and it's actually working against. I mean, I've known that for quite a long time, since I really understood chemotherapy and the way they treated my dad when he was in the hospital, and he never came out. In fact, all the loved ones I've ever had that went into hospital never came out. So I have a massive distrust of the medical industry. But I started out life in the RAF, and so I understand what it's like joining a big organization like that and believing everything they tell you in training and everything else. But, I came to the point more than 30 years ago when I was like, well, who am I working for? Because this doesn't make any sense. And I think when that happens in whatever career you're in, if you're working for a big organization that's effectively working for the government, even though you think you're working for the people, you're not. You're working for the government and this corporation that pretends to represent the people. You have to, and I've met lots of people that have done it, but you have to step out of it and go and do something else, because unless you're going to work on the inside and be a hero for humanity like that German nurse. And I'm hoping there's thousands. Like I told you, my mum lives in Birmingham. She's heard me talk about this stuff for my whole life. And, and she nods and nods and nods. And then she went and got jabbed twice. And I caught her out. And I went, Mum, why did you do it? And she was, I was scared. And then when I talked to her about it now, she doesn't even remember saying that. And I'm like, and I keep, one of the things I do on my channel is I talk about different ways of healing yourself and keeping yourself healthy. And I've got tons of stuff. I'm surrounded by Tesla machines and vibrational frequency machines and all that kind of stuff, light machines, laser machines, because I've just been trying to spread the word about that kind of thing, because the human body is not designed, doesn't need one of these ever for anything ever. Right, it's a complete invasion. And if you look at, in 1895, there was a German magazine that published a picture that I put in one of my poems, because I do poetry videos, and it's a picture, like a drawing of a woman holding a baby running away from a giant snake with the word vaccination on the side of it. I mean, this is not new that people have worked this out, but it's just the media's got bigger and bigger, the brainwashing's got bigger. The poisoning of us, the full spectrum attack on the human race has just got more and more intense over time. History has been rewritten. Schools have become complete indoctrination camp prisons. And, kids have, and this is what worries. The reason I'm standing up is for the kids, because there's a much bigger picture to this. And in a way, this is a distraction from that, because there are 22,000 kids gone missing every single day for the last 80 years, at least, which is 1 billion children. Right. That's 1 billion children. And when people understand why that is and what that's for, that will really, I think that's the thing that will unite everybody. Because if you go on about this and go on about the facts and figures about COVID and all of that, you just get in an endless loop of discussion. But once that, I personally want them to actually understand what's happened with the children. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, if you, I'm going to say the number 17. I hope you know what I'm talking about when I say that. 17th letter of the alphabet. I'm not going to say it on this channel.
Yeah, probably best not to.
Yeah, because keeping this channel alive has been not easy, because the first one got taken down with 30,000 subscribers a year and a half ago, and I've had to start from scratch so many times on so many different places, because you never know when you're going to cross that. I got a channel taken down because a poem contain medical misinformation. How can a poem contain medical misinformation?
You got fact checked.
In a poem.
What?
Unbelievable. I mean, I think, Mark, this is what we're up against, mass censorship and, control of information. But I say to people, we still got to use their platforms to get the message out there. They yes, they can censor us to a certain point, but there's so much truth out there, and there's so many people now using their platforms that the truth, they can't suppress the truth. It's coming out now in America now with the Twitter files and stuff like that, and it's slowly coming out. And these demonic psychopaths who've had control of this planet for thousands of years, they will be brought down. It's run by evil people for evil means, and as humanity we need to stand up, because if we do not stand up, you know you know it's not a good ending for humanity. And I don't want to sound pessimistic, but we have to come out. People need to stand up for their rights and their freedoms that are God given, and walk out of fear, get knowledgeable. Don't worry about these corporations, these police officers who stand there. Challenge them, talk to them, and stand in your authority and your sovereignty, and we will win this. We will win this, and it's so encouraging. And a massive shout out to you, Mark. You've got a great platform there. You've been censored, you got banned, but you're back at it again. I think you've got 54,000 subscribers.
No choice.
54.
Absolutely.
What are you gonna do?
Absolutely.
You can't even take a day off it.
No, you can't. This is life and death, literally about life and death, and I don't say that lightly. As you've mentioned, this is the future of our children. I'm 55 years of age. I've kind of lived my life. I've done what I wanted to do. I've traveled and I've experienced life, as a free man. But, if they get their way, we're going into this transhumanism agenda where they're going to take us away from the human consciousness, and everything that we knew as freedom as we knew it is going to be lost forever. And we've got to fight tooth and nail to keep that, and Lucan, like I said, I've got nothing but love and respect for brother Lucan, because, he's been doing a great work with his team out in Wolverhampton, and, his work has been tireless, and his team has worked so much, and it's so wonderful. And we all come together collectively when we have our Birmingham rallies. We all come together, and that's what we need. We need unity, and it's not about egos. It's about making sure that we're all walking in the same direction for the same purpose, to have the right to walk as free sovereign human beings. Why are we paying these extortionate utility bills? Not that I do. Why do we? Why? Because some corporation tells us we have to. As I said to you earlier on, just because it's legal doesn't make it lawful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand.
Can I just touch upon utilities? Obviously, as a gas engineer.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can talk about Illuminati bloodlines and all these kind of things, but I think for the average person at the moment, I think what's really waking people up is the fact that your gas and electric bills gone from £120 a month to like £500-600 a month. £400 a month just for gas for some people, I've been hearing.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is a form of awakening. So
Yeah,
I think what a lot of people are doing now, and I think what I kind of look at is, so when I speak to people now, the way you can link COVID, believe it or not, with utilities is that I look at things like this. COVID was basically a Trojan horse. We all know it was a Trojan horse, but we also know that it was a tool to accelerate and to push forward Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. They needed some form of accelerant to push this agenda forward. So there's a great document online. It's called Absolute Zero, and it's a PDF, and it was written by University of Oxford, Cambridge, Strathclyde, I think Nottingham, on behalf of the government. I mean, it was written in 2019, but it's a great visual tool to show the general public the markers, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, going on to Agenda 2050, and all the things that the government have to implement. So for example, we can talk about Bill Gates, biggest land owner in America, but everything's linked to Agenda 21. And for example, in this document, it talks about between 2021 and 2030, they have to phase out and reduce, for example, beef and lamb. By 2030 to 2050, there will be no beef and lamb.
Yeah.
And that's all. And that's all in the document. You know.
Not in
And
my
going back to you,
paradigm.
yeah. Well, I think it's any of us, to be honest. You know, but
Mm.
going back to linking Agenda 21, sustainability, all the SDGs, sustainable developmental goals. When you look at, like, for example, I hope there's a lot of people listening who are paying like gas and electric bills because, for example, did you know it only costs £9 per household as a contribution to maintain the gas grid? So it's only costs per household £9 a year to maintain the
Wow.
gas grid, and it only costs £20 a year to maintain the electrical grid per property. So really, in theory, your bills really shouldn't be much over 29 quid, but people are still paying 600, 700. And if you're a business, it's gone from like 100,000 to 1.2 million.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and not only that, the interest. My friend rang me from Manchester recently. She said her mortgage had gone from 200 quid to like 900 quid in a few months.
Yeah,
And you add in
yeah,
the gas on top, that's like 1,500 quid a month. She's a single mother. That's a huge amount of money. That's like
yeah,
18, 20 grand a year before
But
tax.
I was going to say, Mark, again, this is all part of their agenda.
yeah,
Look, listen. We are called useless eaters.
Yes, we are.
yeah,
By the political class. These evil pigs, as I call them. Useless eaters. That's all they see us as. We're not. We're sovereign individuals. We have the power. Who are you to tell me that I have to do X, Y, and Z because it's legal? Like I says, they treat us with absolute utter contempt. And as you says, we need to stand up, as Lucas has just says, we need to stand up against this tyranny.
yeah.
Is this the right document, Lucan?
Let's have a look.
I think I found the right one.
It's called Absolute Zero. So the first couple of pages just summarize really what's really happening. And then if you go to I think page 5, it's like a colourful chart. Keep going down, keep going down. No, keep going down, keep going down. This for me is a very good visual tool to show those who don't really understand the agenda. Yeah, so that's it there. For example, if you look at flying, right, it says on there all airports close except Belfast, Heathrow, and another one in Scotland. The one in Scotland, what's it say? I can't see it on there. Glasgow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's between 2021 and 2030. Then 2030 to 2050, all remaining airports close.
Yeah.
So there's only going to be 3 airports in Great Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is really, really good. I've put a link to this in the chat, guys. If you're watching, there's a link to this in the chat.
Yeah.
And if you're watching the after this is live, click on the live chat replay and find it there. I'll also put it in the comments section, and I'll try and put it in the. This is brilliant. This is a really.
Logan, just a quick one. Is this a government document, or is it like who's actually put this together?
I think it was commissioned on behalf of the government, written by the universities.
Got you.
Yeah, it's like delivering the UK's climate change commitment with incremental changes to today's technologies. You motherfuckers.
Yeah, unbelievable. But again, Mark and Lucan, they use these beautiful words: sustainability, eco-friendly, but we know there's a sinister, evil underbelly of agenda, in play. They want us to watch our carbon footprint while they fly around in private jets. Yeah,
we
and we have to be
are the carbon they want to reduce.
Yeah, it's us.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's us.
It's us, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely us. Let's face it, we are now I think we have been for a long time. We are in a eugenics program where they have to reduce, they have to reduce our population, and it's as simple as that, really. For those who see, but there's a lot of people who don't see. You see, so when I talk about sustainability and net zero and all these buzzwords linked to Agenda 21, it's about curtailing production. It's about, like, for example, there was a lovely lady who's now passed RIP, Rosa Corey. Rosa Corey wrote a book, Behind the Green Mask, and looked at the green agenda. And, she all said Agenda 21 is a control of all resources, all production, all minerals, all reproduction, the way we travel, the way we work, the way we eat. It's a control of everything. And there's a lady in the UK called Sandy Adams. And Sandy, I met her at, for those who are not familiar, there's What's that? What Jazz? What's that place in Birmingham? E17 Club. Is it called E17? Truth Juice on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's in Birmingham down Alchester Road. Yeah, they had a meeting last week. Yeah, that's right. E17.
Mark Steele was there last week.
That's right.
But Sandy Adams did a great presentation on
Sandy's
Agenda
fantastic.
21.
She's brilliant,
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah, she's very good. Sandy
She came and
Adams
spoke at our Birmingham rally a couple of years back.
Yeah. Look up sandyadams.net and look at things like, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, rewilding, so the government are obviously trying to get farmers to rewild their land, to reduce our carbon footprint and get rid of beef and all these livestock under the guise of sustainability. So Sandy Adams definitely want to look up and go on her website because she's very good. She's
good. Yeah, she's good.
It's not working for me, but the same thing's going on in Ireland with the agenda. The agriculture here has just been decimated by the EU.
Yeah, same as the Dutch farmers as well. They again from what I've looked into the Dutch farmers. I think the local government want to get rid of farmers because they want to redevelop the land for a smart city agenda. I think that's what it's really under the guise of, really, without really saying anything. And Rosa Corey, when she was because she was originally from California, and she said that the way they planned like housing and stuff was to push people away from the countryside and to push people into cities.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And Jazz, when you earlier on when you touched on like Internet of Bodies and things like that, like this transhumanistic agenda, a lot of this won't work. A lot of this will only work if the infrastructure is in place.
Yeah.
So, for example, we've in our Stand Up Wolverhampton group, we've got a guy called Ian Jarvis. We've got a lovely girl called Sam. Sam's devoted to the cause, and we've got a 5G group where we look at the planning side. So Sam will check out the planning, see if there's been any applications for monopoles, and if there's been any planning. Like, for example, they tried to put a monopole, like a 5G mast, outside one of our local supermarkets. So we rallied around, and Ian printed some letters. We spoke to the local community. I think Ian printed about 400 letters. We rallied around. A lot of guys from our group, Doug, Mark, went around, posted all the letters. We got the locals on board, local shopkeepers, and then all of a sudden, the councillors wanted to arrange a meeting. Now they're concerned. Do you know what I mean? But when they do it, it's all cloak and dagger. It's all hidden, you see. Yeah. And like I say, everything is linked. Everything will be kind of like interlinked, as Klaus Schwab would say, interlinking, interdependence and things like that. So it will only work when that technology is in place.
I mean, look, they are very, very blatant with it all now. It's all in plain view. They're actually telling us what their agenda is. They just had the recent Davos meeting, the other month. And they are basically mapping out the future of humanity without even asking us. And I've got to give a big shout out to one of our fellow freedom fighters, Brother Herman, who's a Sikh guy. He actually went out there on his own, drove out to Davos, and he managed to get behind enemy lines into Davos and stood there with his banner. And he said it's a very, very scary, eerie place. He goes, but the response that he got was phenomenal from the locals. And he goes, even the local police know what's going on. And he actually drove to Switzerland on his own. He's one of our fellow freedom fighters in Birmingham. He's an absolute amazing. He's amazing. And he's doing what he's doing, and individually but collectively, so wonderful to have a wonderful soldier like Herman on our side in Birmingham. What you reckon, Luke? He's a wonderful guy,
Yeah, he was interviewed by is it Yavi from is it Yemi or Yavi from
from Rebel News, I think.
From Rebel News, and even I was shocked to see a Brummie in Davos. Do you know what I mean? In Davos.
A Sikh Brummie with a turban standing there, with his placard, fuck the New World Order, save our children, right behind enemy lines, literally. And he spoke to the locals and they said, protests and demonstrations are literally banned in Davos. But I spoke to Herman the other day, and I said, you know what you've done? You've sent out such a powerful message on your own to go out there. You've planted the seed, and if they do have another a Davos meeting, which I'm sure they will next year, that will give locals to come out and say, you know what, we're going to stand up against this in their backyard, and other people might do the same. So he has sent out such a powerful message, and his video did actually go viral. That interview went viral. So big up to brother Herman from Birmingham.
Yeah, man, big up. But
Well,
this is the thing.
Sorry, go
Go
on.
on.
No,
And this is the thing,
timeline.
and this is the thing as well, because I always tell people it's not really conspiracy when you can join the World Economic Forum's website and they will send you all the videos, all the documentation. You can join the United Nations. They will send you emails and they tell you what they're doing. And this is the thing, and this is why the perception of what we do needs to change, because people need to understand they've got smartphones, they've got computers. Turn off the TV, stop watching Strictly Come Dancing or Love Island. Think about your future and go online, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of investigation. Start talking about what's affected us, our everyday lives. Instead of just the mundane stuff like the football, the cricket, what's on TV. And these are the barriers that we need to break down. He's challenging the perception.
One of the quotes I use is, in the age of information, ignorance is no excuse.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right there.
Bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. Or ignorance will get you killed by the government.
I know, it will. But
it will. Democide, politicide, genocide, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's all the same thing.
It cracks me up that when I went to school, they made us read 1984 at school. And it's like, you should have done that. That was a mistake.
Fantastic. Well, it was all there, isn't it? It's in plain view. 1984 is a great book, and he told us, didn't he? What was going to happen, and we're living in it. We are living. It's quite. You know what? I was just going to say. I've been following the cabal for the last 27 years, and I never thought that I would actually see, this agenda being played out in my lifetime. And, we are living literally in the book of Revelation. We are living in the last days in real time. It's scary. It's exciting. And, but fuck, humanity needs to wake up.
Yeah. Go on, Lucan.
When you talked about, Mark, when you talked about, school and stuff, and they showed you, George Orwell, it's quite funny because even the school curriculum is run by it's a United Nations program.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people realize this. Like, for example, I was running through my son's school book, and it tells you in the front, this is United Nations schooling program, blah, 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 blah. And then one day I was taking my son to school, and he said to me, Daddy, my son's 9. He's like, Can you ride a bike to work? I said, Ethan, I've got a van, I've got to carry tools. I can't use a bicycle to get to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is that level of indoctrination that they're trying to instill. They're going to start it now.
Well, it's
already started.
Whenever I drop my kids off at school, I tell them, have a good day in prison. Remember that it's all bullshit they're teaching you. And if I pick them up, I say, how was prison today? So constantly reminding them that it's all nonsense, because I ran a set up homeschooling for my kids for about 3.5 years, and when we moved to Ireland about 5 years ago, immediately they regressed but then the biggest problem is, like, they want to be with their mates, so I've not been able to wrench them out without, plus me and their mum are separated, so it's really not an easy situation. But that's what worries me the most, because you're constant. But this is getting better, so I'm going to give a bit of hope here. So one of my daughters, I've got 5 kids. One of my daughters 3 years ago was really suffering with the stress of the whole situation, and she was developing Tourette's, and she would say things to me like Donald Trump's a paedophile and stuff like that, and I'd go, right, okay, and that battle at home has been like a really difficult but interesting one to fight. And she's in a much, much better place right now. than she was then. And I'm, you know, even though I got threatened with arrest by the social services here 2 weeks ago because my 12-year-olds were out of school for 80 days last year. And I said, that's because you mandated masks on kids. And they went, well, it's above my pay grade. It's not our fault. And I went, that's child abuse. You're not having my kids in your institution if you do that. In fact, I don't want them here anyway. They're only here because of this, that, and the other. And it is what you say, Jazz, is standing up in every situation that you can and telling truth to power. And I think one of the other things, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this happen, but we need to be, if we are of this disposition, we need to be going into the councils and don't we need to be doing that? Becoming on the Parent Teachers Association, going on the school board, all of that kind of stuff. Because I don't think we all realize what was going on. You know,
we need to do that, Mark. I think it's very important. And I had this conversation with someone just last week regarding that. And we need to go to these public meetings, that they hold, and we need to be standing there. We need to voice our concerns. And also, two-party politics, we know they're all pigs eating out the same trough, all of them. Yeah. Two-party politics, we need to, as I says, we need to regain back the power. We are the people, we are the power, and we need to have prominent people with a voice, in every region, in every community, to stand up and give our community an alternative as opposed to Labour and Conservative. Two-party politics, they're all in cahoots, mate. It's not going to work.
Get rid of all of that. That's all got to go.
It's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. And the only way it's going to go, where we stand up in a community or as a city and tell them, listen, this is how things are going to be, not what you're telling us how it's going to be, and this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. We need to start pushing, empowering our communities, our local businesses, taking care of our communities, having leaders within our communities. We need a seat at the table, even if we have to have a seat at the table, that we have got a voice. Yes, it's great going to rallies. It's great standing outside, these corporation buildings, but we need to get inside. And if they don't do their jobs, we need to, we need to take back these buildings that belong to us. We are the ones who pay the taxes. Them buildings belong to us, the land belongs to us, then buildings belong to us. They don't belong to them. And who are they to tell us what to do? They are so blasé, they are so arrogant with it. It makes me sick. It really does. So we need to, like I said, get leaders within our communities and go to these public meetings, as you've just said, Mark, rightfully so, and be a voice, within the communities and at council meetings, etc. So
Although I would say, going forward in politics is not the answer.
No, okay, yeah, I get that.
But I was speaking to Ricardo Bossi. Have you heard of him in Australia?
Yes, yeah. I
did an interview with him the other day, and
wow,
and he's specifically going into one particular area where they only need to get like 4 or 5% of the vote so they can get in, and then as soon as they're in legally, they're going to bring the place down. That's
brilliant.
Oh wow,
that's his plan of attack.
Bose is a done, mate. He's an absolute. He's a warrior, isn't he?
He is, yeah. But then you got people like Andrew Bridgen, right, recently standing up and doing the thing. Do you believe that, or do you think that's controlled opposition?
Because
I know how they work. What they do is they take the idea and the feeling, they corral it. They round it up, and then they promise loads and loads and loads of stuff, and then it's a war of attrition, and then that gets killed off as well. So I've seen the Illuminati do this firsthand. I've been involved in things for a long time, and that I'm not saying he is. I'm just wondering what you guys think, or what the word on the street is.
Well, I mean, for me, I think you got Andrew Bridgen. I think you've also got Sir Christopher Cho, who also stood in Parliament and said, I've had my 2 jabs, but over my dead body, quote, will I have that booster? So there's quite a few MPs, but I think because of the whole Matt Hancock situation, that really elevated Bridgen into the limelight, really. But I think because of the whole vaccine injured and bereaved, you've got vaccine injured and bereaved, VIB, and you've got all these other things as well, like Jazz, the one that came to Birmingham recently. What was that one called again? Sorry.
The truth be told.
Yeah, truth be told. So, there's a lot more information out there. And I think it's whether it's controlled opposition or not, he's still, for me, expressing and highlighting what needs to be said. So whether it's controlled or not, sometimes I'm not really bothered. As long as the message is getting out there to the mainstream, I'm not bothered.
But the way that I'm just going to come out with this because it's just hit me, because this is the way I know they work. So they might go, right, okay, that old thing's they're sussing that, so we need to make it look as if, and they will sacrifice their own, not literally, but it'll look like they've sacrificed their own to get through that. And while that's going on, they're putting it in the food or the water or the animals or whatever, and we don't even notice it because we're so busy. Look, we're winning, and then let's have a sandwich. Oh no, we've just been done.
Yeah.
But look at the timing. So, for example, we know this is a vaccination trial that finishes on February the 14th, 2023. So why is he coming out now at the end? At the end, when really everybody should have been on it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at the end.
I don't trust any of them.
No.
Yeah.
And the worst thing we can do is replace them with other people that then start bickering and vie for power and all of this, because this is a spiritual war. And
it is.
We are in the middle of evolving into a better human race that now understands what the enemy has been. It's never been us. We've never been enemies. It's always been them against us, dividing us, right?
Yeah.
We know this.
Yeah.
I mean, my take on that situation, Mark and Luke, is that, there's a lot of stuff said in the community, the freedom movements about controlled opposition, and he's a shill and he's that and that.
Yeah.
You know what? I had this conversation with a number of people again recently, and I'm saying, look, you know what? Let's not focus on the controlled opposition. Let's keep it on, but don't over focus on the situation. We've all got our individual journeys and collectively, and in the end, God will separate the wheat from the chaff. We are in that stage where God will separate the wheat from the chaff. There's no in between. It's either you're a red pill or you're a blue pill. There's no sitting on the fence with the situation, and all this whole thing has to be played out. This evil has to play out in order for it to be exposed. So we've just got to go along with our own gut feeling, with our own intuition, follow our own consciousness, and that's all I've done the last 3 years. I've not orchestrated. I've just gone with my gut feeling. I don't know what's going to happen when I turn up at a rally, and I'm here. I'm still there doing what I need to do, and God will separate the wheat from the chaff. So let's not focus too much on controlled opposition and shills, because God will ultimately separate the good from the evil, whether it's within or whether it's external. That's my take on it.
I don't normally talk about it. It's just with Andrew Bridgen, it just crossed my mind because
I get it.
I just never trust politicians.
No, absolutely. Look, they're all career politicians. They all eat out the same trough. They're all pigs, as far as I'm concerned, eating out the same trough. Two-party politics is not going to work. Politics in general. Look where politics has got the human race. Look where we are. We're living under tyranny. We're living. We're living under oppression, man. We're living under a dark dystopian planet. Evil and psychopaths are controlling this planet, and we've got to take it back. We, the people. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, of course it is. Speaking of politicians, I think one of the some of the politicians that we followed originally was there was an Italian minister, a lady called Sara Cugnal. Did you ever watch her video, Mark, where she spoke about Bill Gates, the control? She did like a 7-minute speech in Parliament, and it was like an amazing speech, and it was right at the beginning of COVID.
I do remember that. I don't remember her name, but I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, her name was Sara Cugnal. You also had the president of Burundi. The president of Burundi said to the World Health Organization, he said, "You're meddling with my election. I think you should leave my country." 6 weeks later, boom, dead. He was gone. Heart attack.
Is he the one who did the test on a fruit?
No, that's the president. That's the president of Tanzania. That was Joseph Maga Olfi. And he tested a rabbit, a goat, a papaya, a quasi, which is like an indigenous bird to Africa, Tanzania, car oil, and a piece of jackfruit, and the rabbit, the goat, and papaya all tested positive for COVID-19. And he said, "What are we going to do? Are we going to isolate the rabbit, the goat, and the papaya from, you know what I mean, all the other rabbits in the country?" You know? And then 6 weeks before he passed, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation said, "We need to rein in the president of Tanzania." And then next thing you know, he was dead. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that really hit me hard, that did, man. I thought, you know what, this is the evil we're dealing with, because he actually did stand up against this whole agenda, didn't he? I can remember him actually doing a video. There was a video footage of him actually doing bloody sit-ups and press-ups, And he weren't having it. He just was not having it. He wasn't
Yeah.
going to be part of the agenda. And look, as you says, you know, they silenced him and got rid of him. And this is
Yeah.
the evil we're dealing with.
He said COVID is a Western man's disease, and he said believe in God, trust in your. He said trust in God. And I actually went in my work. I actually went in a woman's house who was from Tanzania, and she said there is no COVID in Tanzania. She said the only people wearing masks were the staff who were working in the hotels serving Westerners.
Yeah.
So make of that, you know, as you will, and also as well, if you look at the excess death rate in Africa, there is no excess deaths because none of them really had the jabs.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But also, if you go back to when Joseph Magalfi had died, the first person to put in was a female representative, and she was a member of WEF.
Well, yeah, that's right. She was. Yeah.
Yeah, all WEF members. You know,
And
so
she
you
had
know it's been infiltrated.
and she promoted it by wearing a muzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
guys, I've got to go and do dad stuff, but it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for everything you've done and continue to do. You're working for God, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And hopefully, next time I come to visit my mum in Birmingham, I'll try and combine it with one of your things and come along.
absolutely, yeah. Mark, you know, thank you for having us. And it's sad that Mike couldn't get on. You know, he needs to update.
I know, it's a shame.
I think he needs to buy himself a new phone. I think
We need to run the GoFundMe for a decent phone for him.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Just a big shout out to Mike Shinton. You know, he's a great member of you know, our freedom movement in the Midlands and Birmingham, and you know, he's been vocal from day one. And I love Mike. You know, he's a soldier. You know, he's been there shoulder to shoulder with us, hasn't he, Luke? And you know, we've got a great bunch of people in the West Midlands. You know, and thank you again, Mark. You know, continue doing what you're doing. You know, we've got a great platform there, and you know, and again, all I can say, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for coming on and say my piece against this evil agenda. As I say, humanity will win in the end.
We're going to win. Is there anything online where if people are watching this, they want to get hold of you guys and want to come and help?
Yeah. So I'll just say quickly. So we've got a website called Stand Up, all one word, standupwolverhampton.com. We have got a GoFundMe on there, and that just pays for things like, you know, our leaflets. I mean, recently we printed 10,000 leaflets of the vaccine damage payment scheme, which is a great leaflet. And we also, you know, I mean, we fund it ourselves, really. You know, I put a lot of money myself to buy newspapers, and you know, the running around, and you know, a lot of us work full time. It's difficult, but yeah, obviously there's the front. We've recently updated the website as well. It's a great website. Yeah, that's it. Lovely. Designed by Tom.
I've just put it in the comments that you know, we go under the banner of People's Freedom Alliance, our Instagram page. So I've just actually added that into the comments on my other phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, People's Freedom Alliance, but you have to put in the full address because we are heavily shadow banned at the moment. Surprise, surprise. So that, you know, if anybody wants any updates in terms of content and anything that we're going to be doing in the near future in the Midlands and further afield, you know, do follow our page. It's called People's_Freedom_Alliance BU. So yeah, if you can follow that page, you know, we can give you up to date sort of content and information what's going to be happening in the near future. Just a quick one, Mark, before you go.
Yep.
I'm in regular contact with Chris Sky. If you want me to organise him to come on your podcast, I'm happy to sort of arrange that if you want me to do that.
Love you to do that. But yeah, I told you I bumped into him in September in Dublin. He came over and he was speaking at the rally there in Dublin.
Yeah.
And then I bumped into him in the street and had a quick chat. But he's somebody that I'd love to get on. Yeah.
Okay. I'll arrange that. If I can, I'll see if I can, you know, can get some contact details off yourself and we can speak directly about it.
Brilliant. I think he's amazing. And so are you two.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it. And good
Yeah,
to see you
really-
guys.
Really
We'll catch
appreciate
up.
it.
We'll catch up.
Lovely to see you,
Next
Luke.
time we do one, you know how it works.
Yeah.
Luke, God bless you, my brother.
One last thing before we go, Mark. We are taking a coach down to Oxford on the 18th of February, and we're going to show our voice against the LTNs and the 15-minute city. So we'll be down there, Wolverhampton and Birmingham. We've got both groups going in on one coach, and there's a lot of people driving down there, like Mark and stuff, and I think Jeanette's going down there as well. So that'll be a good day. All right, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
was
very
just
much.
gonna, I was just
Thank
going
you.
to give that shout out. 18th of February, this coming Saturday. I think we're going to get a massive turnout. Obviously, like I said, Lucan's doing the coaches, so anybody who's free, get your asses down there, and let's hold these councillors and these pigs accountable for what they're doing.
100%. Brilliant work, guys. Great to meet you. I'll definitely speak to you in the future.
Thank you very much, Mark. God bless you, mate. Keep doing what you do, and all speak soon. Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
God
Bye.
bless you, guys. Thank you.